G'day viewers, it's Wednesday, time for Wanga Fat Wednesday. Who am I not giving a fuck about today? Today, it's the whining pricks I've seen saying oh so regularly, has feminism gone too far? Or they don't even question, they just say, feminism's gone too far. And one of their pet hates is women who out men who harass or abuse them, often on social media. And they say, no, that's not on. You can't do that to him. It's like, well, there are very few other options available. In case you haven't watched other videos, I said, I am very much against witch hunts and full-on harassment, and particularly people who seem to leap straight to death threats. And I've seen that over so many wide and varied things. It's like there's not one political or social group who's innocent of it. It's like, I'm upset with that person and therefore I'll make death threats against them. I really can't get my head around that. But when guys with pretty much complete impunity harass women all the time, if you can actually expose them and say, this is the person who did it, this is what they did, that is virtually the only power the women at the receiving end of this can take back. There's been a couple of incidences of this just in the last week or two, and one this week where a woman on a plane got groped by a guy in a seat just as she walked down the aisle. And when she complained to the flight staff, they made it clear he'd been doing it to other women as well, and there was the suggestion they do something when they landed. Now, she took a photo of the guy. Weirdly, well, just by coincidence, I happened to see this playing out live on Twitter. The woman saying, look, this guy just groped me. They've said he's been harassing other women on the plane. They say they're going to do something. I took a picture of him. I don't want to post it except as a last resort. Flight crew said something would be done about the guy. They said, when we land, the authorities will be there. And that happened. And the cops are kind of like, well, it's not the crime of the century, is it? Oh, well, he touched you, what? And this is why so many sexual assaults happen. Because there's always like, well, it could have been worse, couldn't it? Where you weren't actually raped, you weren't actually murdered, you were just threatened. And if this is what this guy does out in the open, in an enclosed space with people all around him, what the fuck does he do when there's less people around? This to me is the classic, like, well, she shouldn't have been drinking so much if she didn't want that to happen. When you say that, and a fucking terrifying number of people say that, or variations of that, guys who say, oh, well, you're up in that Brock guy's face, but why was she unconscious drunk? What you are basically saying is the only thing that stops you from raping women is them being conscious enough to stop you. And the idea of saying like, oh, it could have been worse. Like, fuck that, it is worse. I do not know any women who have never been grabbed by a guy. Basically, usually it starts at a horrifically young age, but there is no adult woman I know who hasn't been grabbed by someone. And even if you're the type who laughs it off and said, oh, it was nothing, it was horseplay, it happened, okay? It happens all the time. And the idea that actually exposing guys who did it is going too far is fucking ridiculous. And I'm sick of it. And it's not just guys, it's women too. But the people who pontificate and say like, oh, well, I would support women's rights, but not when they go too far. And it's like, where do you get to decree that? And how is something as basic as exposing someone who just keeps doing it because they just keep getting away with it, how is actually getting some public recognition for what's happening, how is that going too far? I mean, like I said before, suddenly launching into witch hunting someone and talking about death threats, that's going too far. But making the problem public and getting the message out there that guys can't do this with impunity, that people they know will see that they do it, that might actually achieve something. Kind of like all you guys who are only being held back from raping women because they're conscious, maybe if you thought your family, your friends, the people you work with knew you did this fucking shit, you might fucking stop.